Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is John and Mike's MMA Corner.
And another week is happening with MMA, and decided this time to have a fantastic co-host in Will Martin. Sir, thank you very much for coming on and joining me this week.
No problem whatsoever. It's been an absolute privilege for me to come on here. You and Mike, as we've been talking beforehand, it's like a couple of good friends of mine met you through in Glasgow for the first time. I've actually seen you at other events before, but got speaking to you in Glasgow, and it's an absolute privilege to be on.
And ladies and gentlemen, Will does UFC Fight Picks on YouTube. We will obviously plug that a few times. But yeah, Will, I've got you on because I like what you say and what you do. And look, I'm going to start off first by letting everyone know who's going to be on interview-wise. We've got 9 people on, I know, ladies and gentlemen, 9. Absolutely stacked. Okay, the first one, I'm going to get this out of the way because it's a bit of a mouthful. I've got Damir Verhadbergovich. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so Damir's on, and he's fighting on the upcoming Valor fights. You've got Charlie Alexander, Jason Wolf, Dustin Usher, Felipe Portello, Jesse Grun, and Sam Samples. These are all fighting on the Valor fights. Then on Titan FC on the 4th of March, you've got Jose Torres making his pro debut. He was originally meant to make it on the last Titan card, but that all went tits up and fell through. He is now fighting Travis Taylor when he was originally meant to fight George Dominguez. So I spoke to Jose when he was meant to fight Dominguez, and then the opponent literally got changed the other day, and I spoke to Travis. So me and Jose talk about Dominguez, so ignore that bit. I did edit it. I thought I'd let it be how it is. So we've got these guests coming on later on at the end. I'll stick all these on at the end because I'm just mixing it up this week. So me and Will are going to jump into it. We're going to talk about some of the fights from the Cerrone Oliveira card that just went by in Pittsburgh. First thing, it was on a Sunday night, so I think it caught a lot of people out in the UK because everyone had to decide whether they were going to stay awake or go to bed and get up for work on time. And I don't mind. I do not mind these Sunday cards because the NFL season is over in the States, and so it's a good idea to try and take that market for the UFC, to take those guys who watch the NFL. Like, obviously, it's a physical sport, so they hopefully try and get on that bandwagon. I think it's a good move myself.
Yeah, I think it's a great move personally. Personally, for me, my days off are Sunday and Monday, so it couldn't work out any better for me. And what you meant to do on Sundays now with no NFL, so perfect for me. I think it's hopefully. I think from what I've seen, they're going to be doing that with the European cards in Zagreb and Rotterdam, and potentially with the US cards as well. I like the idea of that personally.
I do, yeah. It's a smart move. I think you might see the UFC getting some numbers from that as well. Like you said, there's no NFL on now, and that is a big gap in the market. Especially, I think the USA population's 400 million. It's a smart move. So, some of the fights. What fights for you stood out, Will, on that kind of Pittsburgh card?
The fight that really kind of stood out to me was Garbrandt. Now, I'm a big Cody Garbrandt fan. I have been for a long time. I was a fan before. I heard about him before he even got into amateurs, and because I have been for a long time a big kind of Uriah Faber Team Alpha Male guy, or a fan I should say, and there was talk of him going to Sacramento, and I actually watched his first fight back on YouTube on the Sunday after he fought, and he actually got knocked out in the first punch that was landed against him, and but since then I've been a huge fan of Cody Garbrandt, and his fight, I thought he fought really, really smart. I thought he came out a little bit kind of tentative, but I think this win here against Tanquinho, I think 2 or 3 years down the line, this is going to be a really good win in his record, because Tanquinho's a really good fighter. I think he's going to progress with his striking to try and, I don't think he'll ever match his jiu-jitsu, but I think that he'll be a really good fighter in that division. But Garbrandt, I thought, looked fantastic. I thought Mario Yamasaki looked like dog shit. He needs to make a decision whether he's going to jump in and jump out of stopping fights.
Yeah.
But Garbrandt kind of stood out for me. I thought Lauren Murphy looked fantastic after a kind of bit of a slow start. I think her opponent was actually, people were really not giving her too much of a chance, and I think with a full camp, that fight could have been a lot different than what the outcome was. But I thought Lauren looked good, Cody looked good, and they say there was some Derek Brunson just totally. I think this guy is totally underrated. I've never been his biggest fan per se. For some reason, he blocked me on Twitter when I've never followed the guy, so I don't know how I managed that one. But no, there was a few standouts on that card.
Yeah, Derek Brunson, he's one of them ones where, since he had that fight with Yoel Romero, I think he went into the back burner of the middleweights and people didn't really pay attention. And like you say, I think he's 3 wins, 3 finishes, and especially Canario, who's a guy who's 37, and the UFC were trying to push him quickly up the ranks, similar to Romero, because they knew that if he has got it in him to do a title run, they've got to get it in quick. And yes, he's been in the UFC before, but I think Brunson really just first round as well. He didn't even look like close, that fight.
No, I didn't.
Like, Brunson was just a bully. He just absolutely smothered him. I was very impressed with that fight myself, because I was a bit unsure how it would go because of the experience that Brunson doesn't have over him, and I thought, again, you were right about Garbrandt. It was Cody kept the strikes at a distance and he finished with how he should have he finished with a 2-1-2, a right, left, right, and that was beautiful because he straights as often as he could just to keep that fight a gap, because every time he did close it down, he shot for guard once at one point as well. He tried to pull guard, and it was, I would have done the same, because if I'm a jiu-jitsu wizard, I would do the same, but Cody did the right thing, and like you say, beautiful footwork, cutting off on the angles, using the straights, and that's what got him the win. I'll tell you one fight, a couple of little things to talk about was Joe Riggs. I spoke with James Lynch. He's probably got to retire, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think just the amount of injuries he's had, and I think I actually said it as soon as the fight finished that he broke his. I think I said he broke his arm.
Yeah.
I kind of noticed that straight away, but I mean, the guy can't really keep putting himself through this. I don't think he's shooting himself and he's going in there and getting injured, and it's just I hope he actually walks away, because I think it was Brad Scott I spoke to one time, and he says he's a really, really good coach and he's really good to learn off. So hopefully he goes back to the MMA lab and he just kind of does that, and he's kind of set for life teaching. So
that's the thing. He's just so knowledgeable, because he's been around for so long and done so much. He has got it, and you think there's got to be something outside of him for him. Another performance that I was kind of impressed with, a guy who I felt possibly needed a win, was Dennis Bermudez. And considering he went in he had 2 losses under his belt, and then he goes in against a man who's got 2 wins in a row. I was a little bit tentative on this fight. I was a bit nervous, but I was happy that Bermudez got the win. I like Dennis Bermudez.
Yeah. I think I thought he could have finished the fight, personally. I thought if he kind of pushed it a little bit more, he could have got out of there with a stoppage. But he's he's actually a really nice guy to meet. I met him in Vegas last year, and talks away, really, really good with the fans. He had an absolute war with Jeremy Stevens at UFC 189. But one performance I really liked, I think this guy, you really need to watch him, is this Olawale Bamgbose. I think this guy is so unorthodox.
Yes.
Like his movement, like he was literally reaching for the ankle before he threw that high kick. And I was a fan of Daniel Sarafin when I watched him back on the Tough Brazil show, but the guy is like the chubbiest middleweight I think I've ever seen in my life. And I think this Bamgbose, he came in against Uriah Hall in his debut, and Hall's a tough out for anybody on your debut, but he came in short notice as well. But this guy, I think he's got speed, he's got power, whether he's kind of got the gas tank to kind of go deep into the fights is another thing altogether, along with his grappling. But really scary guy I wouldn't like to face. I wouldn't mind seeing Bamgbose against maybe Chris Camozzi next up. I think getting someone with a bit more experience that's coming off a couple of wins over Watson and Riggs. I don't think that would be a bad fight whatsoever.
No, that's a nice matchup. I like that as well. And like you say, he is really unorthodox, and it's nice to get someone like that as well. He's an interesting mix into that kind of middleweight division. I think and especially you saw the difference with a full fight camp. he did look very impressive. And you think, again, with the Uriah Hall thing, if he had a full fight camp, might have been different. Because Uriah Hall, I feel, he is like a light switch. Some days he's on, some days he is off.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I quite like watching Uriah Hall. I think he's just, if he could, that light switch can just turn on like he did against Musasi.
Yeah.
Then him and Bambosa are going to be dangerous guys in that middleweight division, because they've just got so many tools that other people haven't got, but I don't think they've got the kind of mental mentality to kind of put it all together. Hopefully Bambosa does, because I think I rate the guy a little bit. I think he's going to be a scary guy in that division, so hopefully we see him fairly soon, because it was a quick win.
Now we're going to go on to the greatest card that happened at the weekend as well, was Bellator. What I liked as well, Bellator announced. Well, do I like it? I'm not sure. It was a bit of a crazy whirlwind. What's happened in the past week, I suppose, was Spike got rid of Glory. Then suddenly Bellator kickboxing comes along. UFC snap up Glory. UFC Fight Pass snap up Glory. It's a bit of a crazy whirlwind, to be fair, but all that happened amongst the trilogy. The Gracie versus Shamrock fight happened. And then you had Kimbo Dada, and there's a couple of other fights I want to mention. Linton Vassell getting the win against Emmanuel Newton. That was a very good win.
Yeah. I like camps. I'm a big fan of kind of different camps. I've already mentioned Team Alpha Male. I'm also a huge fan of Rufus Sport. And Emmanuel Sanchez was on this. He was on that card. He came through a very kind of tough matchup against Daniel Pineda.
Yeah.
He's a kind of king of getting split decisions. He kind of comes alive with the longer the fight goes. So I was happy with that victory for him. But I think, Linton Vassell, even though he ruined my bet for the night, I thought he looked fairly good. Emmanuel Newton, I don't know where he's kind of at the minute, but I thought Vassell he did what he needed to do, and he got the decision victory. So, but the top two fights in that card were. I'm a kind of guy. I'm a fan of the up and comers, and seeing something like that, it kind of it wore at me a little bit. Especially, I started to cringe through the middle of that Slice and Dada fight. It wasn't great. When you consider some of the talent that Bellator has, it just kind of puts me off. I'm not the biggest fan of the freak show fights, but the ratings came through and they knocked out the park. So if that's what they're going to do, I just hopefully they do those fights and get your Will Brooks, whoever else is coming up through, your Michael Chandlers, put them on through there, and let's get them a bit more recognition, because that's what they need to do to build stars. Otherwise, they are not going to. I'm not saying they're not going to stick around. I just don't think they're going to move themselves forward.
No.
But if we're talking about this Bellator kickboxing. If there's one reason to watch Bellator kickboxing, her name is Anastasia Yankova. She's hot. She's one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen. My missus caught me looking at pictures on her one time, and she was not too happy. But she is a really good fighter, and she transitions into MMA as well. So we may see her in MMA in the future as well.
She is ridiculously attractive. It's painful how she can look that good. It's not fair. I'm with you on that one. The Kimbo Dada, it was infuriating, because I thought it was almost like a disgraceful look upon MMA, because you thought that is a co-main event on the second biggest promotion in the world, and that's just embarrassing. And you think about all the guys in the world that work their ass off in MMA to get somewhere, to be something, to do something in their lives, and that gets to that level. And what frustrated me as well was Kimbo trains at ATT. He should have a lot more he should have a lot more cardio, and he should have had that fight finished. He just looked like he did not put the effort in to get fit. Dada isn't fit anyway. He's just a fat lump. That's all he is. I don't care. I'd say it to his face. I'd even fight him, because do you know what? I know he'd gas after 3 minutes. He didn't know what on the ground. All he tried to do was power out of the transitions. Instead of using technique, he just tried to power out, and that just blew. He just blew his gasket as soon as he did that. Melvin Gillard. He missed weight again, and he got finished. I think Melvin. I think he kind of put the stamp on his career, saying he is finished. In my thoughts, because That's just, unless he goes to Risen in Japan and can have a random weight class where he doesn't have to make 155 and have these crazy fights, I don't see anything else for Melvin.
No, I'm the same. I think the last time he fought in Houston, he fought Joe Lozon, and since that fight, it's never looked the same. I don't think he came out for that fight, and he was so hyped up for that fight, and then he was tapping out very, very quickly. Since then, he's never ever been the same, and it's a shame because he's such a cool cat. He's a really fun guy to be around. When he fought, I think it was Manchester. I can't remember.
Against Ross Pearson. Yeah.
Ross Pearson,
yeah.
And that was the time that I think Tito was supposed to face Rampage or something like that, and somebody pulled out. And I mean, this guy was kicking about at 2 a.m. in the morning in the bar, and he was just full of life, and he's a really cool cat. But I think I'm with you in that one. I don't know where he really goes from here because his kind of professionalism's kind of being tarnished a little bit with not making weight so much, and hopefully it turns out good for him. But I think maybe a step away from the sport might be a good thing for him.
Gracie Shamrock, we'll talk about it briefly. It was a knee in the bollocks. Let's put it this way right now, okay? Because I don't like getting hit in my family jewels whenever I'm doing sparring. It doesn't feel nice, and it was a clear as day knee. Now, I do not mind a rematch because of that incident, and I think I'm not saying it should get overturned by the commission, but at the same time, I don't mind if they do another rematch because it did finish in a very poor manner like that. Like they say TKO, there wasn't even any ground and pound. It looked like Gracie was just slapping him on the face.
Yeah. I would rather not see it personally, but there is kind of grounds for it to happen again. I can see that. But I think there was a whole load of things kind of went on. There was the Texas Commission were a bit of a joke that night as well. Texas has always been a kind of a dodgy area for MMA when they go down there. But I wouldn't, if the fight happens again, so be it. But I wouldn't mind actually seeing Hoist Gracie against maybe Herschel Walker, or there's talk of, I think Sean Shuck's name has been kind of brought up as well.
Yeah.
Either of the fights, but you can make Shamrock and Gracie again. See, the numbers are going to dictate everything here.
Yeah.
And the numbers were kind of monumental for that card.
Another one would be Dan Severn coming up against Hoist.
That's actually a really good.
He said he'd do it. He said he'd be up for it ages ago. I remember messaging him, and he's still up for it. He's in his mid-50s, and he's like, I'm down.
Yeah.
And
jeez, man, that'd be.
He's a monster.
Something, so it would.
And he only retired a couple of years ago, which sounds a bit weird, but do you know what? I love it. I don't care because I'm a bit of a nostalgic. I would watch it.
Well, see, I don't think they can really go away from that now. They're going to have to stick to their guns because they really haven't got much talent coming through. So they're going to have to stick with these fights, maybe like a Tito versus Rampage or Tito versus Kimbo versus Rampage. I mean, they're going to have to start kind of keep doing these fights, but just hopefully they can get fighters coming up through because the places where they're doing the shows, I mean, Texas, they had fighters like Sage Northcutt coming up. I know he's a bit of a kind of people that are kind of either with him or they're kind of against him. But they went to, I think they fought. Let me see. The card before I think was in California. I mean, you've got people in Team Alpha Male. I speak to a few guys through there. They've got talent coming through. Nobody knows. You've got Mario Soto. You've got Anthony Avila. You have Derek Formoso, Michael Nagakawa. They've got fighters there that they can potentially build, but they're just not doing it. And it's just and like they pull the fights. When the fights kind of break down, they don't really get them replacements. And I think they could be chips for Bellator in the future, but they just don't do it. Yeah,
there's a lot of work that can be done there. I think if they use like these marquee fights as the main events and have the guys underneath on the kind of main card to help build them up, because the thing is, like you say, it gets the numbers of people watching the card, but to get to see these new faces and these potentials, if they can maybe balance it out by using them to help build them up, and then in time just get away from the marquee and then just have these rising stars as their kind of main events, I'd understand it. I think as well, by the way, I forgot to say, Chandler is fighting Josh Thompson.
Oh yeah, I actually remember that being announced now. Because I listened to Will Brooks, and so like he hasn't got a fight lined up. I think he's going to be a father, and but it's a good fight to make. But I'm a fan of Will Brooks. I hope they kind of use him a little bit better, because I think from what I'm hearing, he's going to test free agency. We we may see him in the UFC fairly shortly, because I think the UFC will go after him. But we'll just need to wait and see. I think he's a top 15.
So. I reckon they would.
Yeah,
he'd be a good addition.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a good addition to it.
Yeah, I think he would be as well. I think he's definitely a top 15 kind of lightweight. Whether he breaks into that top 10 is kind of another story, but he comes from a great team. He's beat some good guys. So hopefully he kind of gets his opportunity, because I think he's been kind of treated. I think he's kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit with some of his comments and that in the past. But he's a good fighter, and he's a chip for that company if they use him correctly, which I don't really think they are.
I don't think they are either, mate. So we'll go into this week. This weekend. There's a handful of cards going on. I was looking to talk about, like, say, the Marcus Galvao and Eduardo Dantos fight, but that's not happening now because Galvao as well, he fell ill and apparently he got took away on a stretcher from the hotel. I've heard. Now, I don't know how serious it is or what I don't know if it's because of the weight cut that's just dehydration and he's probably internal organs kicked out on him or something. I'm not sure. I hope he's probably going to be okay once he gets a lot of IVs in him. But they've moved up Czech Congo and Queiroz up to the main card. I want Bellator to introduce this heavyweight title. I want they're investing in the heavyweight division a bit more. Because I don't feel like put enough effort into that heavyweight division.
No, they don't. So I do think there's talents out there that they could go and get to bring in, maybe make it a bit competitive. There's always people out there, but they just don't seem to do it, and it's. I think was it Karatonov? Did they sign Karatonov?
They did.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
So they could have built him around. I thought over him. I think the UFC kind of played a pretty good card by saying that we're going to go with the Netherlands. We're going to Rotterdam. As soon as I heard that, I thought, right, there's no way that Alistair Overeem's going to go to Bellator, considering because they're going to give that fight to Alistair. But there's something I really actually love watching Bellator, but there's some things that really put me off, like their stagnant heavyweight division. It's not good to see.
It's not, mate. No. Hopefully, this going up to the main event might push Scott to maybe put a bit more effort in with the heavyweight division. I hope so. I hope maybe the winner of this, there's a title up for grabs or something, because they need to make a bit of effort with it, in my opinion. Especially the guys in the heavyweight division, they're just going unnoticed. Justin Wren, he's winning. He won last weekend. He's knocking out the wins.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying as well. He hasn't been around that much. We obviously knew him way back in the UFC back in the day, but this guy's doing exceptional things, and this is the things they should really be putting on TV, or at least an opportunity to put himself out there, because he's doing great things. Like he's not only fighting, he's doing things that are helping other people, and this is stories that could bring other people into this to watching Bellator. But they just don't seem to kind of grasp that type of thing, and it's a shame. But I would say Justin Wren is a guy that I think it's brilliant seeing him come back after, I think it was 5 years away.
5 years,
He's won a couple of fights, so it's great to see. He's a good guy.
He is. I think you're right there, mate. If they did like a feature with him, they would get numbers. They get people from outside that wouldn't maybe look at twice at Bellator, and they'd get maybe a bit more interest. They should be doing stuff like that, but they're not. We're going to go to the BAMMA card coming up this weekend as well, because BAMMA is happening in Ireland, and they're having they're calling it England versus Ireland, but the thing is, the main event is not England and Ireland. So, but what threw me off was the fact they got these team captains in Sprong and Barnett, and I just don't understand this, because they don't coach the guys. So the only relevance they have is standing there on the night. I think this is another silly. But BAMMA have done a few things that grind on me, and this is one of the things that they're just doing this for publicity, and because there's no relevance to them being there. If they make no difference to them to being there to the fight's performance. Yeah,
they're bringing like Tyrone Spong. Just bring him in as a guest fighter. Just bring him in as a guest.
Yes.
Don't put him as a team captain. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. But I say, to be fair, there is some really good fighters or some up and comers on this card. But I say, I'm not the biggest BAMMA fan. I went to a few of the cards a long time ago, and that kind of sat with me ever since. I'm a Cage Warriors guy myself. But I say they do put on some good fighters, and they have got some good fighters in their ranks and up and comers as well.
Yeah, they have, and that was the thing when Cage Warriors went. It just really worked for Bama. They just kind of, they went cha-ching, happy days. We're going to take a load of their fighters as well. As soon as Graham starts tweeting about stuff about Cage Warriors coming back, they actually is snidey remarks from the Bama staff about some of the stuff he says, and you're kind of sitting there thinking, like, how old are you lot? You know what? You need competition. Firstly, secondly, if you're clearly threatened by it if you're making these snidey remarks. But you're right. They've got a couple of good fights on. They've got Nathan Jones, who's a very talented welterweight coming up through the ranks UK wise, against Peter Queally. Cracking little fight. Yeah, good matchup that one. I like that one myself. We spoke before. We've got your boy coming up on the Tom Fire Kid. I'm going to say DeQuozny, but
Ducumwa.
It's the same. If it's French, I don't do accents. And
that's what we know about.
Against Damian Rooney in this, they call it like a bantamweight super fight. It's a bit of a weird thing, but it's a bantamweight fight. Don't know why they need super fight in there. But it's an interesting matchup. Like we've spoke before, Damian Rooney went down to 125. It did not suit him at all. But at 135, he's a bit of a beast, and I think you're going to find the Fire Kid's going to have a bit of a kind of education when he goes up into that kind of into that fight, I think, and I look forward to it though. It's going to be an interesting bout.
Yeah, I think I'm a betting guy myself. I love a little bit, and Damian Rooney is 3-1 to win this fight. I think that's a big ask for Ducumwa to go and beat Damian Rooney in Ireland as well. I don't think it's all that easy. I think he's in for a tough night personally, but there's up and comers in this card that I think in 3-4 years are going to be big names in the sport. I mean, Dylan Took is a guy who I met in Dublin when I was at the UFC event. He just come off his first win at Bama. A really shy kid, but a really nice kid as well. And there's Rhys McKee's another guy that I've known a little bit about. Nathaniel Wood against Alan Philpott. I think it's a great fight. So
great fight,
they have got good fights on the card. Really, I'll catch up with some of them on the Sunday afternoon when I have my day off. So
yeah, you're right. Connor Cook against Matt Holman, Holam. Bloody hell, Farmers. But there is, like you say, there are some good matchups, and there's some people to keep an eye out for. Just as I'd say it's the start of the career. It's the start of getting building up their career to potential, superstardom. Let's say, getting to the UFC ranks, and it's definitely worth keeping an eye out and watching them just so you can see them progress. I love doing it myself. I love seeing names, and it is a nice thing to watch. We'll talk then about UFC London. It's happening right now. Okay, well, not right now, but it's happening this week. Let's say it's fight week. Now, there is a handful of cards and a handful of fights on the card. Is there any particular ones that for you stand out?
I'm very interested to see. Obviously, you've got the main event, which kind of stands alone from anything else on the card, but I'm really looking forward to seeing Tom Breeze again. I think this guy is an absolute killer. Yeah. And I think within 18 to 24 months, I think within probably the end of this year, the welterweight division are going to really know who this guy is. The guy is huge. The guy's the size of a heavyweight. You wouldn't believe it. He fights at welterweight. He's massive. He's a huge, tall guy. He's got a huge frame. And his display last time out against Cathal Pendred, his boxing display was unbelievable. Now I know that Pendred's he's not too bad, but he's like Tom Breeze. When I was sat there in the crowd watching him, he just shined out like star talent to me. And the other one that I really want to speak about is Brad Pickett. I love Francisco Rivera on the other side, but I am really wanting a Brad Pickett win this weekend because you won't meet a nicer guy in the whole entire sport than Brad Pickett.
Oh, love Brad. Had him on a handful of times. Just, and I've had a lot of laughs with him outside of it. I've told this story before, but when we were in Glasgow, when we were all up in Glasgow, he was with Mike Brown. He was with Mike Brown.
Mike Brown, yeah.
And I was like, bloody hell, Mike Brown. I was like, fucking hell, he's a legend. And I was like, oh, Mike, can I get a picture? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so I stood there, and then Brad comes up behind, and he's a prankster. Brad Pickett is a prankster, and he pulled down my shorts in the middle of the hall, like at the kind of entrance to the hotel where everyone was, all these fighters and everyone pulls me bloody shorts down in front of everyone, and I'm just like, because I didn't realise what was going on, because Mike, who was holding the camera, was pointing the camera down towards my crotch, didn't even cotton on, and Brad sneaking up.
I actually think we were in Glasgow, remember, I think we were in the entranceway, and Brad was actually standing on the stairs, and we must have spoke to him for a good 20 minutes.
Yes, we did.
I think, if I remember right, so, and he's just like, he gives you so much of his time, and that's coming off probably one of his worst defeats of his career, and he's just top class. He uses class, does Brad Pickett, and that's why I really want him to see him come through. I think he can do it. I think he can use his wrestling against Rivera here, and use his aggressiveness like he did with Neil Seery the last time they fought in London. Seery was piecing him up in the feet, and he used his wrestling, and his wrestling is really underrated. He showed that years ago against Demetrius Johnson, so I'm hoping for a Brad Pickett win this weekend.
I feel you're right, because again, with Brad as well, since he's gone back up to bantamweight, to be fair, he absolutely mollywopped Thomas Almeida.
Yeah, he was. That's what I'm saying. He totally. When I was in the crowd, I was shocked, because obviously Almeida is this guy coming through. He's knocking out everybody. But for that first 6 minutes of that fight, probably, he totally dominated that fight, and it just shows you Almeida's kind of killer instinct that he's got, that he'll throw stuff like that. But he was winning that fight very, very handily. I think he'd put him down twice in that first round, and I don't think he's done yet. I think flyweight, the guys were just far too quick for him down there. He couldn't get his hands on them. I think this is the division he should have always been at, and having fights like this with Rivera, who might get in a little bit of firefight, but I think he needs to fight smart if he wants to win this fight. Yeah,
you got to think, because like with the Lineker fight, Rivera will stand, and he can get enticed to go toe to toe. So it's one of them ones where, but Brad, like you say, we know he's got the power. I tell you, a fight that I am now, I liked the sound of it at first, but then I am more enticed now because of what happened in the lobby at the Fighters Hotel. They had a bit of a dust up, which was Khabibulov and Park. Literally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm interested in that now, because there's a bit more venom. There's more spice to that fight now than. And you think to yourself, I like it when there's something like that going on. A bit of spice to a fight, that gets me right in.
It adds things. I mean, in Dublin, when I was there, you obviously had the weigh-ins with Park and Madadi.
Yes,
and,
the bag.
I think I was there on the Wednesday. I think I flew in the Wednesday, and they were just standing and looking at each other. If you've been to the Gibson Hotel, it's quite a big entranceway once you go up the top from the elevators to the other elevators on the other side, and they were just kind of staring at each other, and you were thinking, well, that's going to be a good fight. And then you go to the weigh-ins, and it gets accentuated, and the fight was. I thought the fight was all right. I thought Norman Park showed little bits of improvements. But I think this is a really tough fight for Park. He kind of trades wins and losses a little bit. But it's going to be. I find it when I did my predictions for this video. I did a bit of tape study. I just don't see how he really beats Kabalov. I think Kabalov is going to eventually take him down. He's going to suplex him down. I know that Park has got really good takedown defense. He's got that judo background. But I think that Kabalov's just going to find a way, and I think he hits harder as well. So. Close fight, but I edge Kabalov in this one.
I do as well, my friend. I looked at it, and I think he is just his grappling, and the way he can transition his grappling is, I think it's cleaner as well than Park's. But there's a couple of fights on that. Like we're really looking forward to the return of Davy Grant against Marlon Vera. It's just Davy Grant.
How do you see that fight going?
Do you know what? I'm a bit to and fro, because I wonder because Davy Grant's been out for a while. Does he feel any pressure being out for that long, coming back in? If Davy Grant is relaxed and prepped right, I think he can put Vera away, because Vera. I watched Marlon Vera on the Ultimate Fighter. He's still a very raw fighter.
Yes.
You know what? I had a big soft side for him because of the story with his little girl and stuff like that, and then the UFC paid for the operation. But then you have to cut that stuff away, and you have to look at the talent and what they've got. I think Davy Grant is a more, I like Davy Grant as a fighter. I think as long as Davy Grant can pace himself as well, because he's been out for a while, and that fight conditioning. I don't care what Dominic Cruz says, but if Davy Grant goes out there with an adrenaline rush trying to finish the fight quickly, and he could just shoot his load, and then that's him trying to win a fight, then try and drag out a decision. I think if Davey paces himself well, I think he'll find the time and find the gaps.
I think so. Like, both guys are very good when they go to the ground, very, very good. Most of the wins are via submission, but I think stand-up's going to be. I think Grant actually has the better stand-up than Vera, but the betting lines I think are a little bit off on this. I think this is a pick and fight personally, and they've got Davey Grant as the favourite, and they've got Vera as the underdog. So in my predictions on my YouTube channel, I've went with Marlon Vera. I ring rust, 2.5 years not fighting. That it screamed out to me to go with underdog in this fight, and I don't think I'll bet it. I was contemplating earlier on, but I don't think I will. But I say this, when you look at I'm looking at the card now, I just think there's good fights. There's fighters that people don't know too much about, probably stateside don't know too much about. Yeah. I mean, there's Arnold Allen, who in Glasgow is just top class. Yes. And another guy I think that may kind of surprise people is this Thibaut Gauthier from France. I watched some tape, and this guy's good. Very good.
He's stepped in, hasn't he? Short notice, didn't he? Because Team Lou, or I can't remember the pronunciation now.
Pakalan, yes.
Yeah, he was met. He got injured. I saw that.
He's when you look at because his fights are on YouTube, and he beat Anton Kovanen, who is a UFC veteran, a very tough guy. Went to Finland and beat him. And he's good on the ground, he's very patient on the ground, but he has strikes as well, where Pakalan is kind of mostly a grappler. He showed that against Lebu in Glasgow, that once he got it there, he knew what he was doing, but on his feet he was a little bit sloppy, but it was short notice on that. But Arnold Allen's another guy. I think me and you both, we know who Arnold is, and he's a really top prospect.
He is, and he's up at TriStar now a lot more often. So, and he's just training with killer after killer. So, I think we're going to see probably even more rounded and more sharper Arnold this time than we did last. So, I look forward to it.
It's a good fight for him as well.
It is, yeah.
Mesa's, he really hasn't. He doesn't shine in any area of his game, but he's solid all around. But I think that Allen's got too much speed. He's got too much power. And I think he stops Mesa as well. So
I think probably maybe round 2 or 3 probably get that finish in. I mean, what was
I going to say? Alan Omer. I mean, he was down. He was losing that fight, and he showed like huge cojones to come through and find that submission. He won himself a bonus, and that was in short notice as well.
Yes, that was.
It's a big win. I say I'm a really big admirer of Arnold, and I think it's a really good fight for him this weekend.
I tell you, a big fight for someone. Scott Askham against Chris Dempsey. Scott after his last fight against Jotko, and again, Scott's another one where he's losing one, winning one, losing. He's a guy. He's almost turned into the Tom Watson of the British middleweights. Just can't string those wins, but he's kind of got the skill set, but he just can't seem to put it all together.
Yeah, I think this is a tailor-made match for him, though.
Yeah,
I think that. I think against Jotko, if I remember right, I remember watching the fight back again. Jotko kind of had his way with him on the ground a little bit, but I think he busted up on the feet. Dempsey is predominantly a wrestler. I think he fought in Dublin against Latifi and got blasted. Yeah. He got too aggressive, rushing in against Latifi and got caught with a shot.
Got caught, yeah.
Last fight against Jonathan Wilson, it was at 205, tried rushing in, got caught, got put to sleep. I think Askham's got the power to put him away, and I see this being another finish for Askham. But Scott Askham is he's a really, really cool guy. He brings so many fans. You don't realise that how many fans this guy brings from England. He did it in Dublin. They were only sat maybe 20 yards to the right of me, and there was at least 150 to 200 of them in that crowd. So that tells you something about the guy. He's got a lot of support.
He does, man, and he is a lovely guy. I've had him on here. He's a great guy to talk to. But I tell you what, I think Bradley Scott's got the one hell of a fight against Jotko. Coming back from surgery on his shoulder, Jotko, he put on a good performance against him, and I think Bradley Scott's a little bit too slow, and Jotko's been training up at I think it's Tiger Muay Thai, maybe somewhere like that in Thailand. He's definitely sharpening up his striking, and he's got a bit of that speed, and I think that's what will make Bradley Scott come undone in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Scott. You don't meet in the sport of MMA, you don't meet too many bad guys.
No.
I've never met too many bad guys. And I think the last time he fought over this side of the pond was in London the last time against Silva, and I thought he personally probably should have won that fight, but I don't know whether he's been out at the MMA lab. I don't think he's really got the finances to really get himself out there at the minute, so it'd be interesting. Jotko's a guy that I think if he was a little bit better in a certain area, I think he'd be a really tough guy in that division. But I have to say, my pick this week for that is Brad Scott. One of the things I said for 2016, I think if it's a close matchup, I'm going with underdog, and it served me right. I had Ashley Evans Smith last week. I had Wonderboy the weekend before, the event before that. I've had a few come through for me already, so I like Brad Scott personally.
Okay, then one fight I think that people are going to look over, only because the guy's quiet in my opinion, but I tell you what, he is one hell of a guy to look out for. Amir Khan fighting Mike Wilkinson.
Oh yeah,
that fight. Yeah. People are overlooking Mike Wilkinson in my opinion, because that dude.
I agree. People are disrespecting Mike Wilkinson, and
yeah.
Nicholas Backstrom did that last time, and Nicholas Backstrom was looking at the lights when he woke back up again. Yeah. So good fight, really good fight.
Yeah, I love that fight too, my friend. I think it's a good one. Obviously, Breeze. I like I said, I'm with you, mate. I think Breeze is going to smoke it. Now, Talis Latis against Gregor Mousasi. I spoke with James Lynch about this one. We both pick Latis in this fight, and again,
I'm the same.
It's purely because you never know what Gregor Mousasi is going to turn up. That is the big problem as well with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think James kind of put it very well in his show. He hasn't really evolved his training or anything. He still trains in the Netherlands. Sometimes he turns up, he's really, really good. I mean, when he faced Uriah Hall, I picked Uriah Hall. I just had a hunch that Hall was going to catch him with one big shot, put him out. I think that Latis is like really underrated at the minute as well. He could have beat Michael Bisping. I'm not sure.
He did.
I think I maybe edged Michael Bisping in the arena, but when I went home and watched it, I think I gave it to Latis. But his striking's coming along. I think that I think he might have the advantage over Mousasi on the feet if he can get off a little bit quicker. I think he's got the more power.
Yeah.
And if Mousasi wants to take this fight to the ground, I think he could leave his neck in there. He could get caught in something. And the minute I seen this from a betting perspective, I was like, ching ching, I'm on that. So I'm betting Talis Latis this weekend, and I'm picking Talis Latis to win. I think he'll get a decision, but I think it'll be close. But yeah. My pick's going to be Talis Latis.
Yeah, we'll go then to Bisping Silva. Look, for me, this fight, they're both not at their peaks anymore. Both of the fighters. I think it's one of them ones that I think Bisping's more happier out of the two to have it. For Silva, it's one of them ones where I think this is an ideal opponent for Silva, because Bisping ain't going to be a one-punch knockout artist like Rockhold or Weidman, where he can hit you with one punch and rock you. Bisping is a guy who tallies his strikes up. Also, Bisping, he likes to come in, he likes to jump in with his strikes, with that stance. That is perfect for Silva with his footwork and angles and counter-striking.
Counter-striking,
I personally think it's ideal for Silva, myself.
I think so too. I think the one thing I've say Bisping is, if we look at it from being UK fans, he really is a legend of the UK scene.
Yes.
He has done so much for the sport, but Anderson, I just don't see where he beats Anderson Silva in the slightest. So he might have a better, as the fight goes longer, he might have more kind of pop in his shot, more pep in his step towards the later rounds. But I just don't see. I think Silva will play with him a little bit, and I'm still not convinced. Like with Michael Bisping's eye, I think that. That eye just looks horrendous, and personally, if he loses this fight, Michael, I think he should step back. I think he's actually a really good analyst on TV.
Yeah.
He's fun, but I just want to kind of give the UFC a shout out for this, because over here in Britain, the UK, maybe parts of Europe as well, people kind of shit on these cards, but I think personally this is the way UFC fight cards should look in Europe. You've got local talent coming through, and there is loads of great local talent coming through here, and it's headlined by an absolute blockbuster of a fight. So kudos to, I think, Eric Winter for putting it on Fight Pass, the UFC for making this happen, and this is what I think what needs to happen more with the UFC events over here in Europe. I like the card. and the main event screams out to any MMA fan out there.
Hey, look, Eric Winter is doing a stellar job as well. I'm with you on that one.
He's the man.
He is.
Eric's the man.
Such a cool dude to talk to. And also, you know, you look at the Zagreb card, they're getting Damir Hadzovic, who is an absolute monster on that card, who people will look at us and go, who is he? But he is a monster.
They don't know who he is, exactly, yeah.
And he is one to look out for. But then the main event, bang, you've got Rothwell, Junior Dos Santos, you know, former champion and a guy who wants the belt. Now, I personally feel that Rothwell's just going to steamroll Junior Dos Santos in that fight.
I'm the same.
But then again, it's still a hell of a main event. Then you go to Rotterdam. Word is it's going to be Overeem and Orlovsky, two legends, both European heavyweights as well. So they're both, you know, that helps for the European stage. Again, Orlovsky, former UFC heavyweight champ. It just helps with the marquee kind of main event, and they can just fill out undercard, so to speak, with local talent.
I mean, that fight with Handazovich in Zagreb, he's facing against Taisumov, who
it's a hard fight.
It's a great fight. But I'm looking at the card at the minute. Nicholas Dalby, always been a fan of Nicholas. He's kind of work rate, and he's just overall a really good fighter. You've got Marcin Tybura, who's coming in the heavyweight division. I think this guy could beat some big guys in that heavyweight division. That Francis Ngannou from France is another really good fighter. You've got Bojan Velikovic coming in from RFA. Good cards. This is what I think the UFC need to do, and more respect to them for it. I hope they really put some good fights together for... Is there any fights confirmed for Rotterdam yet, do you know?
I think there was
for the main event.
I think there was 2 fights confirmed for, and it's just gonna. Do you know what? Right now, because you're asking me right now, my head's gonna go.
Bigfoot against Stefan Struve. So that's probably going to be the co-main event.
Nah, they won't do two main. They won't do two. They'll probably put that as like on the main card, but not as the co-main event. They'll probably stick a lighter weight something else on there, just in case. Because with the heavyweight division, it's one of them ones. Sometimes it can be an epic knockout, or it can be like a drag of a 3-rounder. So
it's like Jared Roshaw, like down in Australia, him and Struve, or perhaps like that. But then I'm just looking at, they've got Nikita Krylov against Francois Barroso.
There you go. Murder. Krylov's going to murder him.
He's going to go through him, and then you've got Reza Madadi against Jean Cabral, which will be, I think that's a good fight as well.
Yes, there you go, Jean Cabral, that was it. See, I couldn't remember until you bloody named them. Right, yes. So they named a couple of fights, but again, I think we'll see, some regular names on there with a couple of new additions. Not too many, but I like it. I like the fact that, like you say, they're putting Fight Pass. But I've spoke about this, and I do believe that I spoke this with Chuck Mindenhall as well. I feel like with the UFC Fight Pass, what they're doing is that, like the WWE Network, they're making it a channel that people will want to purchase it, the app or whatever you want to call it, and they're putting content on there that people want to tune in for, and they're really starting to take the channel seriously, because I love it. You got to think, mate.
I love it.
In the next few weeks, you've got, let's see, UFC London, Titan FC, Invicta. You've got Glory coming up. You've got UFC 186. It's just rattling off event after event after event, and you got to think there to yourself, that's all on one channel. You're not having to flick through everything. I love it.
I literally spend hours on Fight Pass. I lose hours of my days just watching fights or watching something or other on there. I gave them my 12 months up front.
Yes.
And I just literally stream it on the TV, and I sit and watch fights for hours. And from what I'm hearing, I think Eric Winter says that they're going to really change things up. That it's going to get better. And you say Titan. I'm a big fan of Invicta personally.
Yes.
I do watch kind of everything on there, but I mean the content that they've got coming out. I mean the next Invicta card is stacked as well. They've got a couple of title fights on there. So I love Fight Pass. For me, they're actually sending me a few T-shirts out, which is really, really nice of them for doing some certain things like surveys and stuff. So I'm waiting for them to come through. I mean, it's stuff like that makes you really want to kind of stay there, support the UFC and Fight Pass, and I can only see it really going places in the next couple of years. And eventually, I think all the fight nights are going to be on there eventually. And
well, I think that as well. It's already. I love it already. And they sit there and say they're going to improve it, and I'm like, well, dude, I'll be honest with you guys. it's great as it is. But
Yeah, it is.
the fact that you can say there's going to be more, well, I'm super. Like, I've had it like you, mate. I've had it for way too long. I don't even like my.
Yeah.
I literally have no life because of it. You know, people go, oh, have you not seen anyone? I'm like, no, I have got a girlfriend. It's called UFC Fight Pass. Go away and leave me alone. I want to watch two men in shorts grapple. Get away. But that's it. Meta Morris, isn't it? Hasn't Meta Morris gone to there or something?
Yeah.
Like, you know, bloody
I think
hell.
Eddie Bravo did it.
Eddie Bravo Invitational. There you go. Sorry.
And if you're, it's like I'm not the big. I did a little bit of jiu-jitsu a couple of years back, but same. I've got glasses, and I can. If I take my glasses off, I'm literally walking into things. I'm blind as a bat. But like Eddie Bravo Invitational is the best jiu-jitsu to watch because it's just people going for stuff. It's none of this stalling and trying to get points wins. It's like they're going for submissions. So it's if you get the opportunity to watch that, you need to go and watch it because it's fun times when the Eddie Bravo Invitational's on.
That's the idea of it, you see, because he makes you can only win with submission, and then when it goes to when the timers runs out, they put you in awkward positions. It's almost like the NFL, where in overtime you get a chance to basically score, get a touchdown. It's the same with the Eddie Bravo Invitational. You get a chance to submit them, and then you can swap it over. It's a great idea. It's how it should be. Make sure guys are going for submissions. Again, that's another content added, which is absolutely staggering, really, considering that it started off as something that people weren't sure about, and then now I love it, and I can't wait to hear what they're doing this year with it and what more. We're going to finish off then, Will, talking about the best press conference in the world I have ever seen, in the smallest place you would have ever, it looked tiny. The whole thing looked like it had been done in 2 minutes. It didn't even look professionally done, but it was just you just didn't need it. You didn't need to worry. You didn't even need the stage. You just had to have Nate and Connor stood there with two microphones.
Yeah,
it was.
I thought it was. See, I think if I remember right, they were going to have the open workouts between Connor and RD, so that's why it's kind of like that. But I think the amount of people they took a picture of outside the UFC gym in Torrance, and it was like the line just kept on going. So it wouldn't surprise me if I had to tell people that there's no more room in this place. But I mean, I couldn't. I was working. I was up very early, so I was hoping. Come on, hurry up, Connor. But you know what? If I knew that was going to happen last night, I would have stayed up. I would have waited another couple of hours because it was just absolute dynamite. And I say, Conor McGregor, there's nobody that can talk with this guy because he puts you in your place. He did it with Nate last night, and Nate just didn't know kind of what he was doing. But Nate Diaz, being Nate Diaz, just didn't give a shit and just kept on coming like he will in the fight. But whether it's going to be a good thing for him, I don't think it'll be too great from the night, but I think kudos to the UFC for getting it done quick and getting a really good replacement for RDA falling out, because I was desperate to see Conor against RDA, but with RDA falling out, getting Nate Diaz in, it's not a bad replacement, and it's at 170, which just kind of, if Conor wins, it really puts himself out there. I will fight anybody, any division, and I will beat, and I know Nate's not a natural 170 guy. He kind of he's went between the divisions, but I think this only really adds to the myth of Conor McGregor if he goes in there and does what he says and usually comes out with the outcome that he says as well. Yeah,
it does. You're right there. I think if you're a matchmaker for the UFC, Conor's ideal then, because they'll sit there and go, we want more guys like that. We'll just step in, doesn't matter what it is, who it is, and we'll just go. And he's ideal for them because now they can just sit there and make up fantasy matchups. It doesn't matter because they just know he's going to say yes, and that's what they need. They need more of them.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He's the master at these press conferences. They're just stealing the show. Yeah, we did that. It was the big press conference. He went after RD. He went after Cerrone. Yeah. So he's got RD. He's got Cerrone. Last night he was talking about Nick Diaz. He says he was talking to Nick more than he was Nate. Yeah. I never thought about that. We were speaking about this beforehand. While the press conference was going on, I thought, holy shit, Conor McGregor versus Nick Diaz. I mean, the amount of pay-per-views that will sell, if they can get a full couple of months to really promote that fight, that thing is going to take off, because Diaz brothers are huge pretty much wherever they go, and Conor is just changing the sport pretty much. The sport's at his feet at the minute, really. So
and you got to think, Nick's suspension's up in August, I think. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
it's not out of the realms of maybe saying September time, maybe October time. Considering if say let's do hypothetical results. Say Conor beats Nate, then he goes for UFC 200 potentially against Robbie Lawler. Let's just do random fantasy matchups. Let's say they do that fight, then that's it. Then you've got that fight, and then you could sit there. Nick Diaz, bang, sits there, goes in say September, October, gives Conor a bit of time off, and it gets straight into Nick Diaz. I love that idea. You know, it would just.
I love that idea as well.
And it would just sell. It's just money. You know, those fights are made. Fight against Nate is made for money. Lawler's going to be a money maker, and then Nick's just going to be a bigger money maker. It just builds, and builds.
I mean, it's just, I really hope people start to appreciate kind of Conor McGregor, because I think he's going to get to a stage where he goes, right, that's enough, and you're not going to see him again, and I don't think you will see him making a comeback unless somebody comes in and is kind of trashing him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think he's got his money. He really doesn't need to make any more money.
No.
So the one thing that kind of gets me is fighters that go after Conor McGregor because he does this or does that. He's everything from the minute he stepped in the door and fought in Sweden. He's said everything that he was going to do. He's done. He's changed the sport completely. I mean, last year when I was at 189, I couldn't believe the amount of Irish people. The MGM Grand, everywhere you looked, there was an Irish accent, and it was crazy. And you went down the strip, and it was just Irish everywhere. It was crazy the amount of people there. And people say, "Oh, but GSP did that," but you're not flying halfway around the world.
Yes.
Doing that 3 times a year as well. I mean, they did it in December. I know people that are going next week, and it's not easy going out to Las Vegas. It's a lot of money. I mean, I'm going out in April for Jones and Cormier too, and it's not. It's a lot of money on your.
It is.
It's a lot of money to spend, but thankfully the missus is coming with this time, so she's kind of burdened some of it a little bit. But it's a lot of money, and he's just completely changed the game. I just don't like the way fighters kind of go after him. He's doing everything he's asking, and he's taking the company to the next level, so he deserves the prizes that's coming his way.
I think the guys who are in 145, 155 and now 170, anyone who does have a go in that weight class, they're doing it really to have a potential chance to fight him, because they know, like you say, he's going to make them money, and do you know what? I don't have any problems with them doing it, because they're just themselves trying to sell a fight that hasn't been signed, so they're trying to make one happen.
Yeah. So like Nate Diaz is going from 20 to 20 for 20. This guy's probably going to make. It wouldn't surprise me if he makes $500,000 next week.
Yeah.
That's the guy. I mean, that's more money than he's probably ever had before in his life, and he's not only changing the sport, Conor changing his life, he's changing Chad Mendes' life has probably been changed, and there is others as well.
Jose Aldo, to be fair, Jose Aldo probably hasn't made that much money.
Yeah. We may never see Jose again. Supposedly he's back in camp, but does he really need to come back? I don't think he does, but obviously you wouldn't want to go out in a 13-second loss. But I really just hope people kind of. I know he's a polarising figure, but
he's like Marmite for some people. I think that's all it is. It's just at the same time, it's like Ronda Rousey.
Yeah,
they literally are. They're doing so much, and it's Marmite. But you got to think. I'm saying Ronda Rousey there. The woman who demolished Ronda Rousey is on the undercard of this Conor Nate fight as the co-main event, and no one is talking about Holly and Misha.
Yeah, and I think after as soon as I'm finished here, I'm going to go in and make my predictions for UFC 196. So I've been doing a bit of tape study over the last few days, and that fight is really intriguing, because I think Misha Tate she's really came along in the last few fights, and I'm a Misha Tate fan. At the beginning, I wasn't really a Ronda Rousey fan, but you need to respect Ronda Rousey's game.
Yes.
And just her physical attributes that she had. Everybody loses. It happens to everyone. I don't care who you are. But see, that fight, Holm versus Tate, I'm really looking forward to that. Like, really looking forward to it. I think it's a great stylistic matchup. And you'll need to really kind of look in and watch that, because it's going to be a good fight. The card overall is not particularly great.
Latifi's on the main card as well.
You know what? I totally forgot about that fight.
Yeah.
But I was actually looking at the card there. I totally forgot that Latifi is on that card, and Latifi's a guy that I think he's starting to kind of get himself a little bit of reputation over there in America with he's just a bulldozer pretty much.
Yes.
And he goes through people, and he's training the American top team now, so you may see a little bit more of him kind of flopping about in America, but I like that matchup against Volante as well. I think it's a good matchup for him.
Exactly, you got Tom Lawler as well against someone, and it's going to evade me right now.
Corey Anderson.
There you go, Corey Anderson. And you got the ladies are on the undercard, on the main card as well. You got another women's fight.
Very good fight. I think it's the women's fight. Very, really disappointing. We seen last week with Lauren Murphy. That was a fun fight. There was a little bit of controversy with Renault and Evan Smith. But Diego Sanchez against Jim Miller. Fight Pass prelim. Great fight. My favourite fighter all time is Diego Sanchez. Always been a fan of his, and he's not been great probably his last, let's say 5 to 8 fights. Probably he could have lost every one of them.
Yeah.
But on a few decisions. But I think him versus Jim Miller is going to be a great fight as well.
I think it suits the both of them of where they are, because I think Jim's on a bit of a decline at the moment for some reason. Like at one point, Jim Miller was going to get that 155 stab, and then for some reason, he just went right off the boil. And Jim Miller is an absolute monster. He is a killer, and he's went off the boil.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that just happens. I mean, he's never really faced any. When you think about it, except for his early days, he's come in and he's faced the best of the best in that division. I mean, you look at the names, he's beat Cerrone, he beat Joe Lozon, I think he fought back in the day. He hasn't fought bad guys. No. He's had a couple of wins. He's had maybe up-and-comers like Medeiros when he beat him and other fights, but it's just the natural progression. It's the same with Diego. Diego's... He comes and sparks a little bit. We've seen it against Melendez, but then he's went down to 145, which he should never really have done because, especially against Ricardo Lamas, that's just a tough fight. But he's back where he is at 155. I think, we might not see too much more of Diego, but it's a very close fight next week. An underrated card, but you really don't need a strong card when you have Conor McGregor at the top, and then you have that other main event with Tate and Holly Holm as well.
No, I'm with you as well. I think those 2 fights alone are enough for me to be happy with. I'm with you, mate. Not every card can be mega fight, and I'm happy enough with that. Look, Will, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend, having this conversation. I've really enjoyed talking fights. I could talk all day about MMA. But you said before we were talking about your predictions and everything. Where do we go for your predictions, my friend?
Just go to YouTube, put in my name, Will Martin MMA Predictions, and I think I've been making videos for 3 years possibly, and I'm really starting to move forward. I'm starting to get some nice views. I'm getting some nice comments. YouTube's a weird place anyway. You get people coming after you, but I'm literally on there giving my perception of the fights, and the main reason I'm on there is just really to talk to other fans, because I could literally, like yourself, could sit and talk about this sport till I'm like grey-haired, which I am already. Let's get out there.
I say me too.
I could sit in this chair I am right now for another 50 years and just constantly talk about the sport. It's just the best sport in the world to be involved in, and this is just my way of getting myself out there and meeting new fans and speaking to new fans.
And exactly, that's the thing about the sport, mate. We're on together, talking, conversing, and we're bonding over it. We're not sitting there like, for example, I'm going to pick on football. We're not sitting there like 2 soccer fans, and we're disrespecting each other's teams. You know, like for example, you might say, "Oh, I like him and I like him." Do you know what? It's all right if you like different fighters, but the thing is, we're not. We respect the fight game. I love it, mate. I'm super excited about this. This weekend, and look, we're going to talk in the future together. We'll always keep talking, buddy. But on Twitter, how do people get hold of you?
Will Martin 7 MMA. That's my Twitter handle. So come on there. You can speak to me anytime. I say I'm not much of a sleeper personally. I'm always working quite a bit, but I'm always there if you want to speak. Send me a message. And let's just talk about the sport.
Yeah.
Tell me some of your favourite fighters. Tell me some of your favourite fights. And just come and converse with me. That's all all I'm really about on Twitter. It's just because I have friends that like the sport where I stay, but not too many. I mean, I'm 100% for the sport. I love the sport and I love watching it. So you're kind of the family out there that are pretty much like myself who just want to speak about the sport. So just come find me on Twitter, WillMartin7MMA, and I'll chat MMA with you until you're grey-haired like me.
I will put Will's Twitter handle, and I'll put the link up to his YouTube channel, not only on our Facebook, on our Facebook page, but also do it on our YouTube channel when we put the YouTube video up and stuff like that, people. So you can just click the link, because these days people are pretty lazy and they don't like to type, they just like to click stuff. So you'll be able to click, do it all, it'll all be there for you. Will, again, thanks very much, friend, for coming on. I'm going to stick now, ladies and gentlemen, on our 9 guests. I'm going to literally stick them on one after another. It's just going to be an absolute minefield of interviews and guests. Like I said, we're going to stick Demir, Travis, Jose, Charlie, Jason, Douglas, Felipe, Jess, and Samuel. There you go. That's all. And thank you very much, everyone. And I'll be back next week.